Jake never thought he'd end up in a place like this. The rehabilitation center smelled like disinfectant and hope mixed together. White walls, motivational posters, and the constant sound of people working hard to get their lives back. 3 months ago, he was just another guy sitting at his computer for 12 hours a day, writing code and forgetting he even had a body. Now, every morning reminded him just how much his back hurt. The injury happened on a Saturday. He was moving his old couch down to flights of stairs because he finally decided to get a new one. One wrong step, one twisted movement, and his world changed completely. The doctors said he'd be fine, but fine felt like forever when you couldn't even tie your shoes without wincing. Physical therapy was supposed to help. The first 2 sessions were pretty standard. Stretch this, lift that, use this machine for 10 minutes. His therapist was nice enough, but everything felt mechanical, like his body was just a broken machine that needed fixing. Jake went through the motions, but nothing seemed to really help. His back still ached, and worse than that, he felt disconnected from everything. On his 3rd visit, everything changed. He was early that day, sitting in the waiting room scrolling through his phone, when he heard music coming from one of the therapy rooms. It wasn't the usual background noise they played. This was different. It had rhythm, soul, something that made you want to move even when moving hurt. Then she walked out. The woman moving to that music was unlike anyone Jake had ever seen. Not because she was pretty, though she was. Not because she was tall or short or had any particular feature that stood out. It was the way she moved. Every step looked like it meant something. Every gesture seemed to have a purpose. She walked like she was dancing, but so naturally that you might not even notice unless you were really paying attention. Jake was paying attention. He couldn't help it. There was something about the way she carried herself that made his own body feel clumsy and forgotten. She moved like her body was exactly what it was supposed to be, like every part of her was working together perfectly. He realized he'd never felt that way about his own body, not even before the injury. "Are you Jake?" she asked, and he realized he'd been staring. Her voice was warm, the kind that made you feel like you'd been friends for years. "I'm Maya. I'll be working with you today." "What happened to Tom?" Jake asked, referring to his regular therapist. "He's out sick today. I hope that's okay." Maya smiled. "I do things a little differently than most people here. Is that all right with you?" Jake nodded, though he wasn't sure what she meant. Different how? He followed her into the therapy room and immediately noticed it looked different too. The harsh fluorescent lights were dimmed, and there was actual music playing softly in the background. Not the elevator music they usually had, but something with a real beat. "Tell me about your pain," Maya said, but not in the clinical way the other therapist asked. She sounded like she actually wanted to know. "It's my lower back," Jake started, giving her the same explanation he'd given everyone else. "I heard it moving furniture. The doctors say nothing is seriously wrong, but it hurts all the time. Sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's better, but it's always there." Maya listened, really listened. She asked questions that nobody else had asked, not just about when it hurt, but about how it felt. Did it feel tight? Did it feel weak? Did it feel scared? That last question surprised him. "Scared?" Jake repeated. "Sometimes our bodies hold on to fear after an injury," Maya explained. "They try to protect us by staying tense, by not moving the way they used to. Your back might be scared of getting hurt again." Nobody had ever talked to Jake about his body like it had feelings before. It sounded crazy, but it also made sense. Ever since the injury, he'd been moving differently, carefully, like he was always expecting something to go wrong. "I want to try something with you," Maya said. "It's not like the usual therapy. It's more about helping your body remember how to move naturally. But it means you have to trust me, and you have to be willing to let go of some control." Jake had never been good at letting go of control. His whole life was about control. Planning, organizing, making sure everything worked the way it was supposed to. But his body wasn't working the way it was supposed to, and nothing else had helped. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. Maya had him lie down on the mat, but not in the stiff, clinical way he was used to. She showed him how to breathe differently, how to let his body actually relax instead of just pretending to. Then she put her hands on his back, and something shifted. Her touch wasn't like the other therapists. It wasn't pushing or pulling or trying to force anything. It was more like she was listening to his body with her hands, like she was having a conversation with muscles and bones that Jake couldn't hear. Your body is telling me a story, Maya said softly. It's been working so hard to protect you. But now it's tired. It wants to move, but it's forgotten now, as she worked. Jake felt something he hadn't felt in months, not just physical relief. Though that was part of it, he felt connected to his body again, like it was actually his. Not just this thing that carried his head around and occasionally hurt. I'm going to teach you some movements, Maya said. They might look strange, but they're based on how bodies naturally want to move. Not how we think they should move, but how they actually do. The movements were unlike anything Jake had ever done. They flowed from one to the next, like a conversation between different parts of his body. His back, his legs, his arms all seemed to be talking to each other for the first time in months. You're a natural at this, Maya said. And Jake felt a pride he hadn't experienced since he was a kid learning to ride a bike. By the end of the session, Jake felt different, not completely better, but different, like something had shifted inside him. As he was getting ready to leave, Maya did something that surprised him. I don't usually do this, she said, but I think you might benefit from some additional work. Different from what we do here. More focused on helping your body remember what it's capable of. She paused, and Jake could see she was choosing her words carefully. I have a small studio at my house. I work with people privately sometimes, using movement techniques that help with healing. It's not traditional therapy, but it might help you in ways that this place can. Jake felt something flutter in his chest, not just excitement about potentially feeling better, but something else, something about the way Maya moved, the way she talked about bodies and healing, the way she seemed to understand things about him that he didn't even understand about himself. I'd like that, he said. Maya smiled. Good, but I want you to know, this kind of work requires trust. You'll have to be willing to be vulnerable, to let me guide you through movements. That might feel strange at first. Are you okay with that? Jake nodded, though he wasn't entirely sure what he was agreeing to. All he knew was that for the first time in months, he felt hope. Not just hope that his back would get better, but hope that he might discover something about himself he'd never known was there. As he walked out of the center that day, Jake realized Maya was right about one thing. Her body was built for something special. It was built for healing, for helping, for showing people like him that their bodies could be more than just things that hurt or worked or broke down. She had offered to share that gift with him, and he was ready to accept it. The address Maya gave Jake led him to a quiet neighborhood, about 20 minutes from the rehabilitation center. Her house was simple but welcoming, with a small garden in front and wind chimes that sang softly in the evening breeze. Jake sat in his car for a moment, wondering if he was making a mistake. He'd never done anything like this before. Going to someone's home for therapy felt strange and exciting at the same time. Maya answered the door wearing comfortable clothes that let her move freely. She looked different here, more relaxed, like she was in her natural element. Come in, she said with that same warm smile that had made him feel comfortable from the first day they met. She led him through her living room, which was filled with plants and soft lighting, to a converted garage that took his breath away. The space had been transformed into something magical. Mirrors covered one wall, but not the harsh kind you'd find in a gym. These seemed to glow softly. The floor was covered with thick mats that looked like they'd be comfortable to lie on. Speakers in the corners played music that seemed to flow like water. This is where I do my real work, Maya said, and Jake could hear the pride in her voice. Everything at the center is about fixing what's broken. Here, it's about remembering what was never broken in the first place. She had him sit on one of the mats while she explained what they were going to do. I learned these techniques from my grandmother, she said. She was a healer in her village back in Colombia. She taught me that every body has its own rhythm, its own way of moving that brings peace and strength. Jake listened, fascinated. Maya had never talked about her background before. She used to say that people in modern life forget how to listen to their bodies. We treat them like machines instead of living things that need care and attention. Is that why you became a therapist? Jake asked. Maya's expression grew thoughtful. Actually, I used to be a dancer. Professional ballet. I trained for 15 years, performed with companies across the country. My whole life was about making my body do exactly what I wanted it to do, when I wanted it to do it. What happened? I got injured. Not dramatically, not in one moment like you did. It was gradual. Years of pushing my body beyond what it could handle. One day, I realized I had forgotten how to simply move without pain. I had to learn to heal myself before I could help anyone else. Jake could see the emotion in her eyes as she talked. That must have been hard. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, Maya said, surprising him. I discovered that my body wasn't just built for performing for others. It was built for healing, for connecting, for helping people find their way back to themselves. She stood up and moved to the center of the room. Let me show you what I mean. Stand up and close your eyes. Jake felt awkward at first, standing in the middle of the room with his eyes closed. But Maya's voice was soothing, guiding him through simple movements that felt different from anything he'd done before. Don't think about it, she said. Just feel. Let your body move the way it wants to move. Slowly, Jake began to relax. The movements Maya taught him weren't like exercise or stretching. They were more like conversations between different parts of his body. His arms would reach in one direction, and his back would respond by releasing tension he didn't even know he was holding. That's it, Maya said, and Jake could hear the smile in her voice. You're starting to remember. After about an hour, Maya had him lie down while she worked on releasing the deeper tension in his back. Her hands were incredibly skilled, finding knots and tight spots that had been bothering him for months. But it was more than just physical. As she worked, Jake felt emotions he hadn't expected. Why am I feeling sad? He asked suddenly. The question surprised him as much as it seemed to surprise Maya. Bodies hold onto more than just physical pain, Maya explained gently. Sometimes when we start to heal, old emotions come up too. It's normal. It's actually a good sign. Jake felt tears starting to form in his eyes. I don't understand. I'm not usually like this. When did you last cry? Maya asked softly. Jake thought about it. I don't remember. Maybe years ago. Your body remembers everything, Maya said. All the stress. All the times you pushed through pain. All the times you ignored what you needed. It's been waiting for a safe place to let all of that go. And suddenly, Jake was crying. Not just a few tears, but really crying. Years of tension. Of living in his head instead of his body. Of feeling disconnected from himself. It all came pouring out. Maya didn't try to stop him or make him feel better. She just stayed with him, her presence calm and reassuring. I'm sorry, Jake said when the tears finally stopped. Don't be sorry, Maya said firmly. This is part of healing. You've been carrying all of this alone for so long. You don't have to anymore. When the session ended, Jake felt different then. He had in years, not just physically better, though his back did feel amazing. He felt lighter, like he'd been carrying a heavy backpack for miles and had finally been able to set it down. How do you feel? Maya asked as they walked back toward the front door. Different, Jake said honestly. Good different. Like I'm actually in my body instead of just dragging it around. Maya smiled. That's exactly what I hoped would happen. Your body wants to heal, Jake. It's been waiting for permission. As Jake got ready to leave, Maya touched his arm gently. I want you to know something. What we're doing here, it's not just about your back anymore. It's about helping you remember who you are underneath all the pain and tension. Jake looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something in her eyes that made his heart skip. There was caring there, yes, but something more. Something that made him feel seen in a way he'd never experienced before. I'd like to continue, he said. Good, Maya replied, because I think we're just getting started. As Jake drove home that night, he couldn't stop thinking about what Maya had said. His body was built for more than just sitting at a computer and occasionally hurting. It was built for movement, for feeling, for connection. And Maya, with her incredible gift for healing, had offered to help him discover what that meant. For the first time in months, Jake went to sleep without his back hurting. But more than that, he went to sleep feeling hopeful about what tomorrow might bring. 3 weeks into their private sessions, Jake felt like a completely different person. His back pain was almost gone, but more importantly, he felt alive in a way he hadn't experienced in years. He looked forward to their Tuesday and Thursday evening sessions more than anything else in his week. Maya had become not just his healer, but someone he genuinely cared about. Their sessions had evolved into something beautiful. Maya would guide him through movements that felt like meditation. In motion, sometimes they would work in silence, just two people helping each other discover what their bodies were capable of. Other times, they would talk while they moved, sharing stories about their lives, their dreams, their fears. Jake learned that Maya loved old movies and terrible reality TV shows. She told him about her grandmother's recipes and how she missed the small town where she grew up. Maya discovered that Jake was actually funny when he wasn't stressed about work. And then he had a secret dream of learning to play guitar someday. On this particular Thursday, Jake arrived at Maya's house feeling especially good. His boss had finally approved the project he'd been working on for months, and he couldn't wait to share the news with Maya. She was the first person he wanted to tell, which should have been a sign of how much she meant to him. But when Maya opened the door, something was different. She looked tired, distracted. Her usual warm smile seemed forced. "Everything okay?" Jake asked as they walked toward the studio. "Just a long day," Maya said. But Jake could tell there was more to it. During their session, Maya seemed distant. Her movements, usually so fluid and natural, felt mechanical. When she worked on his back, her touch was still skilled but somehow less present. Jake found himself more focused on her mood than on his own healing. "Maya, what's really going on?" he asked when they took a break. She sat down on the mat across from him, and for the first time since he'd known her, she looked vulnerable. "I need to tell you something," she said quietly. Jake's heart started beating faster. The tone of her voice scared him. "I'm engaged," Maya said, and the words hit Jake like a physical blow. "Have been for 8 months. I should have told you sooner." Jake stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. "Engaged?" Maya nodded, then reached into her bag and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a ring, not huge, but clearly expensive, the kind of ring that meant serious commitment. "I don't wear it during our sessions because it gets in the way of the work. But I should have been honest with you from the beginning." "Why didn't you tell me?" Jake asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. Maya was quiet for a long moment. "Because I didn't want it to change things between us. What we have here, in this space, it's special, it's real. I didn't want the outside world to interfere with that." Jake felt a mix of emotions, hurt, confusion, and something else he didn't want to name. "Who is he?" "His name is Robert. We've been together for 3 years. He's a good man, successful, stable, everything my family thinks I should want." Maya's voice sounded hollow as she spoke. But Jake could hear there was more. "But he doesn't understand what I do. He thinks this healing work is just a phase, something I'm doing until we get married and I settle down into a more normal life. He's already talking about me giving up the private sessions and just working part-time at the center." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. "Give up what you do. But you're incredible at this. You've helped me more in a few weeks than months of regular therapy." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "That's the problem. Robert sees my work as just a job. He doesn't understand that it's who I am. When I'm working with people like you, helping them heal, I feel like I'm doing what I was meant to do. But Robert wants me to be someone different." "What do you want?" Jake asked. Maya looked at him, and in that moment, Jake saw something in her eyes that made his heart race. "I want to feel understood. I want to be with someone who sees me for who I really am, not who they think I should be." The air between them felt electric. Jake realized that what he'd been feeling for Maya wasn't just gratitude or friendship. He was falling in love with her, and from the way she was looking at him, he wondered if she might be feeling the same thing. "Jake," Maya said softly. I need to tell you something else. These sessions with you, they've become the best part of my week. When I'm with you, I feel like myself, really myself. Not the person Robert wants me to be, not the person my family expects me to be. Just me. Jake moved closer to her on the mat. Maya, I think I'm falling in love with you. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. I think I'm falling in love with you too, and that terrifies me. Why? Because I've never felt this way before. Not even with Robert. With him, everything is comfortable, predictable. But with you, I feel alive. I feel like the person I was meant to be. Jake reached out and took her hand. Then why are you marrying him? Maya's tears started falling. Because it's what everyone expects. Because it's safe. Because I'm scared that if I choose you, if I choose this feeling, I might lose everything I've built. What if you're losing yourself instead? Maya looked. At their hands intertwined, and Jake could see the war happening inside her. My whole life, I've been trying to please other people. My parents wanted me to be a successful dancer, so I danced until my body broke. Robert wants me to be a traditional wife, so I said yes when he proposed. But you, Jake, you want me to be exactly who I am. Because who you are is amazing, Jake said. You've changed my life. Not just physically, but in every way. You've shown me what it means to be truly alive. They sat in silence for a moment, both knowing that everything had changed between them. The professional boundary had dissolved, and they were just two people who had found something rare and precious in each other. I don't know what to do, Maya whispered. You don't have to decide anything right now, Jake said. But I want you to know that I'm here. Whatever you choose, I'll respect it. But I also want you to know that what we have is real, and maybe that's worth fighting for. Maya squeezed his hand. Robert is coming over for dinner tomorrow night. He wants to talk about wedding plans. I keep trying to get excited about it, but all I can think about is you. As Jake left that night, both of them knew that everything had changed. The comfortable routine they built was gone, replaced by something much more complicated and infinitely more meaningful. Maya had offered him her healing gift, but somewhere along the way, she had also offered him her heart, and now they both had to decide what they were willing to risk for love. Jake didn't sleep that night. He kept thinking about Maya, about the look in her eyes when she said she was falling in love with him. He'd never been in a situation like this before. He'd never been the other man, never been part of a love triangle. It felt messy and complicated and absolutely right at the same time. The next morning, he couldn't concentrate on work. Every few minutes, he'd find himself staring at his computer screen, thinking about Maya having dinner with Robert, talking about wedding plans while her heart was somewhere else entirely. Jake had never met Robert, but he already disliked him, not because he was a bad person, but because he didn't see Maya for who she really was. Around noon, Jake's phone buzzed. It was a text from Maya. Can we talk? Something happened. Jake's heart jumped. He called her immediately. Jake? Maya's voice sounded shaky. What happened? Are you okay? I told him last night during dinner. I told Robert I couldn't marry him. Jake sat up straighter in his chair. You what? I couldn't do it anymore. He was showing me pictures of wedding venues and talking about our future, and all I could think about was how wrong it felt. How I was living someone else's life. What did you say? Maya's voice grew stronger. I told him the truth. Then I realized I don't love him the way I should. Then I've been trying to be someone I'm not. And it's not fair to either of us. How did he take it? Not well. He was angry, confused. He said I was throwing away something good for a fantasy. He called me selfish. Jake felt his anger rising. You're not selfish. You're being honest. Am I? Because right now I feel like I just ruined everything. Robert left angry. I've probably lost the best relationship I've ever had on paper. And for what? For feelings that might not even lead anywhere? Maya, can I come over? There was a pause. I don't know if that's a good idea. I'm emotional and confused, and I might say things I'll regret. Then I'll listen. You don't have to say anything. But I don't want you to be alone right now. An hour later, Jake was at Maya's door. She looked like she'd been crying, but there was something different about her too. She looked lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. I keep going back and forth, Maya said as they sat in her living room. One minute I think I made the right choice. The next minute I think I'm crazy for giving up security for uncertainty. Tell me about the minute when you think you made the right choice, Jake said. Maya smiled for the first time that day. When I think about that, I feel free, like I can finally breathe, like I can be myself without apologizing for it. And when you think you're crazy, I think about how Robert was right. He is successful, stable, everything most people would want. My parents love him. He would have given me a comfortable life. But would you have been happy? Maya looked at Jake with eyes that seemed to see right through him. No, I would have been comfortable, but not happy. There's a difference. They talked for hours. Maya told Jake about the conversation with Robert, about how he tried to convince her she was making a mistake. She told him about the phone call from her mother this morning, disappointed and worried about her daughter's future. My mom said I'm being foolish, Maya said. That men like Robert don't come along every day. That I should think practically, not emotionally. What do you think? I think I've been thinking practically my whole life. I danced because it was practical for my future. I said yes to Robert because it was the practical choice. But where has practical gotten me? I was miserable. As the sun started to set, Maya and Jake found themselves back in her studio. It felt natural to be there, in the space where they discovered so much about themselves and each other. I want to try something, Maya said. She put on soft music and stood in the center of the room. I want to dance for you, not as your therapist, not as someone trying to heal you, just as me. Jake sat on the mat and watched as Maya began to move. It was unlike anything he'd ever seen. Her body told a story of struggle and growth, of pain and healing, of fear and courage. She moved like she was shedding an old skin, becoming someone new with each gesture. When she finished, there were tears in both their eyes. That was beautiful. Jake whispered. That was me, Maya said. The real me, the person I've been hiding for so long. Jake stood up and walked toward her. I love who you are, all of who you are. The healer, the dancer, the woman who's brave enough to choose love over comfort. I'm scared. Maya admitted, me too. But I'd rather be scared with you than comfortable without you. Maya reached up and touched Jake's face. I never thought I'd find someone who would love me for exactly who I am. I never thought I'd find someone who would show me who I could be. They stood together in the middle of the studio, two people who had found something rare and precious in each other. The practical choice would have been for Maya to marry Robert, to give Jake a polite goodbye, to go back to the safe, predictable life everyone expected her to live. But standing there with Jake, feeling more herself than she'd ever felt before, Maya knew she had made the right choice. Love wasn't always practical. Sometimes it was messy and complicated and uncertain. But it was real, and it was theirs. So what happens now? Jake asked. Now we figure it out together, Maya said. We take it one day at a time. We build something real, something that's ours. Are you ready for that? Maya smiled, and Jake could see all the fear and uncertainty in her eyes, but also hope and determination. I'm ready. Are you? Jake pulled her closer. I've been ready since the day I met you. I just didn't know it yet. Outside, the world continued spinning. There would be challenges ahead. Questions from family and friends, the practical matters of building a life together. But inside Maya's studio, surrounded by the space where they both learned to heal and grow, Jake and Maya knew they had found something worth fighting for. They had found each other, and that was enough to start with. 6 months later, Jake woke up in a house that felt like home for the first time in his adult life. Sunlight streamed through the windows of Maya's bedroom, and he could hear her moving around in the kitchen downstairs. The smell of coffee and something sweet baking filled the air. His back didn't hurt anymore. In fact, Jake couldn't remember the last time he'd even thought about his back. The injury that had brought him to Maya felt like a blessing now. Though he'd never say that out loud, it sounded too much like something from a movie. But the truth was that injury had led him to the best thing that had ever happened to him. Good morning, sleepyhead, Maya called from the kitchen as Jake came downstairs. She was wearing one of his old t-shirts and dancing barefoot while she cooked. Even making breakfast, she moved like she was performing poetry. "What's all this?" Jake asked, looking at the spread on the counter. "Fresh fruit, homemade muffins, and what looked like the special pancakes Maya only made on important days. Today's the day," Maya said, turning to face him with a huge smile. "Did you forget?" Jake hadn't forgotten. Today was the day they were officially opening their practice together after months of planning, paperwork, and renovations. They were ready to share their approach to healing with other people. The idea had come to Maya about 3 months ago. She'd been working with a couple at the rehabilitation center, trying to help them both recover from a car accident. The husband was healing quickly, but the wife was struggling, not just physically, but emotionally. She'd lost confidence, become afraid of movement, afraid of her own body. They needed to heal together. Maya had told Jake that night, her fear is affecting his recovery, and his frustration is making her more anxious. Bodies don't heal in isolation. That conversation had sparked something in both of them. They started researching, reading everything they could find about couples therapy, about healing as a shared experience. Maya reached out to her old professors. Jake dove into the science behind it all. Within a month, they had a plan. They would create a practice that combined Maya's movement-based healing with Jake's understanding of how the mind and body work together. They would help couples heal not just individually, but as partners. "Are you nervous?" Maya asked as they drove to their new studio that morning. Terrified, Jake admitted. "What if nobody comes? What if we're completely wrong about this?" Maya reached over and squeezed his hand. "Then we'll figure out what's right together." Their first clients were Linda and Tom, a couple in their 50s who'd been married for 28 years. Tom had hurt his shoulder in a workplace accident, and Linda had been dealing with chronic pain from an old injury for years. They'd heard about Maya and Jake's approach through a friend at the rehabilitation center. "We've tried everything else," Linda said as they sat in the comfortable consultation room Jake and Maya had created. "Individual therapy, medications, traditional physical therapy. Nothing seems to help for long." "Tell us about your relationship," Maya said. "How has the pain affected you as a couple?" That simple question opened the floodgates. Linda and Tom talked about how they'd stopped touching each other, afraid of causing more pain. How they'd stopped doing activities they used to enjoy together. How they'd started to feel like roommates instead of partners. "We used to dance," Tom said quietly. "Every Friday night, we'd put on music and dance in our living room. We haven't done that in 3 years." Maya and Jake exchanged a look. They both knew exactly what needed to happen. "We're going to teach you to dance again," Maya said. "But first, we're going to teach you to trust your bodies again and each other." Over the next hour, Maya and Jake guided Linda and Tom through gentle movements designed to rebuild trust and connection. They started with simple breathing exercises, then moved to gentle stretching that they could do together. "Focus on your partner, not on your pain," Jake instructed. "Let your body remember what it feels like to move with someone you love." By the end of the session, Linda and Tom were holding hands and smiling at each other in a way they probably hadn't in years. "How do you feel?" Maya asked. "Different," Linda said. "Like we remembered something we lost." "You did," Jake said. "You remember that healing doesn't have to be something you do alone." After Linda and Tom left, Maya and Jake sat in their studio, exhausted but exhilarated. "That was incredible," Maya said. "Did you see how they looked at each other at the end?" "I saw it," Jake said. "I think we might actually be onto something here." Over the following weeks, word spread about their unique approach. Couples started coming to them not just for physical healing, but for emotional reconnection. Maya and Jake developed programs for people recovering from accidents, dealing with chronic pain, or simply wanting to strengthen their relationship through movement and trust. Jake found himself becoming something he'd never expected to be, a teacher. He loved helping people understand the connection between their minds and bodies, showing them how emotional stress could manifest as physical pain and how healing one often healed the other. Maya flourished in ways Jake had never seen before. She was using all of her gifts, her understanding of the body, her ability to create safe spaces for vulnerability, her intuitive sense of what people needed. She was finally doing exactly what she was meant to do. I have something to tell you, Maya said one evening as they cleaned up after their last session of the day. Jake looked up from the mat he was folding. What? Robert called me today. Jake felt his stomach tighten. They rarely talked about Robert anymore, but Jake still felt a complicated mix of emotions whenever his name came up. What did he want? Maya smiled. He wanted to apologize, he said. He'd been angry for months, but he'd been watching what we're doing here, seeing how happy I am. He said he realized he was trying to make me into someone I wasn't, and that wasn't fair to either of us. How do you feel about that? Relieved, Maya said, and grateful. I never wanted to hurt him. I just needed to be myself. Jake walked over to Maya and pulled her into his arms. Are you happy? He asked. Really happy? Are you kidding? Maya laughed. I'm doing work I love with the person I love. I'm helping people heal not just their bodies, but their relationships. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Jake spun her around, both of them laughing. So am I. He said, who would have thought that the worst injury of my life would lead to the best thing that ever happened to me? Your body knew what it was doing, Maya said. It brought you to me, and you offered to help me heal. I offered you everything, Maya said softly. My knowledge, my skills, my heart, all of it, and I accepted all of it, Jake said. Best decision I ever made. As they turned off the lights and locked up their studio that night, Jake and Maya walked out into the warm evening air, hand in hand. They had built something beautiful together. Not just their practice, but their life. They had learned that healing wasn't just about fixing what was broken, but about discovering what was possible when two people truly saw and accepted each other. Maya's body had indeed been built for something special. It had been built for healing, for connection, for love. And when she had offered it to Jake, she had offered him not just physical healing, but a chance to become the person he was meant to be. Together, they were helping others discover the same thing, that love and healing were not separate things, but different expressions of the same beautiful truth, that we are all stronger when we allow ourselves to be truly seen, truly known, and truly loved.